Hello, and thank you for joining me for Food Offensive Weekly News. Here in 2013, this is our first broadcast, and I am covering the news of food freedom issues, things going on, and what's actually in our food. And if you've seen me on YouTube in 2012, I covered a whole vast array of topics concerning food and the things going on in the environment that's affecting our food supply and things, legislation and other companies that have pushed their way into the government in a way where they're getting the ability to serve us anything they want. And so in 2013 here, I'm kicking off the first broadcast here as you're watching it. It's going to be a different format a little bit, and hopefully to be able to get into a studio and get on the local channel if you're in Denver, channel 56 on Comcast cable. And of course, you can always watch it on YouTube in high definition. But I wanted to cover a few articles here concerning some things coming up and some things going on as well this week. This is the broadcast for January 21st, 2013. Now, the first article I wanted to cover tonight, the first bit of news, is dated January 14th. Dr. Mercola and Mercola.com. I've covered a lot of his articles and other videos that I've done. He has an article titled, "Beware, Fructose Can Make You Hungry."
And so as we look at this Mercola.com article, again titled "Confirmed, Fructose can increase your hunger and lead to overeating." He starts out by saying, people everywhere are finally waking up to the indisputable fact that all sugars are not created equally when it comes to the physical end results they create. And going down, it says the researchers discovered that when you drink a beverage containing fructose, your brain does not register the feeling of being satiated, as it does when you consume simple glucose. As reported by Yahoo Health, all sugars are not created equally, even though they contain the same amount of calories, because they are metabolized differently in the body. And it also refers to the Journal on American Medical Association article as well. You can see that here. It refers to that article when talking about that. And then the article goes on. It goes into detail about how your body metabolizes fructose versus glucose, the known health ramifications of a high fructose diet. It points out, of course, as I've looked at many times, how high fructose corn syrup is an issue in itself, being often derived from genetically engineered corn, and it has quite its own list of documented side effects and health concerns. He goes on to say, from an increased risk of developing food allergies to the risk of increased infertility in future generations and possibly cancer, according to a recent Lifetime feeding study. And he goes on, he has recommendations for fructose allowances and just gets into some other things. And we go back to this first page of his article here at Mercola.com. They kind of did that girl wrong there. They picked a picture of the girl behind a stack of donuts and burgers and soda. That's just wrong, but it looks like they got it from iStock Photos, so that's that.
And the next article I wanted to look at, and this kind of goes along with it, but in kind of a different effect, in covering diet soda and looking at its depression risk. And it's quite interesting. This article from Mike Adams of naturalnews.com, January 15th.
That talks about a recent study that could show the link between drinking diet sodas and depression. And it actually, one of the main sources for this article from naturalnews.com, Mike Adams, the Health Ranger. It is a article from vitals.nbcnews.com by Rachel Retner. And I just wanted to point out the fact that she starts out the article by saying, diet drinks may taste good, but they might not bring happiness. A new study finds that people who drink diet sodas or fruit drinks are more likely to be diagnosed with depression. Well, I don't know what kind of diet drinks she's tasted, but I think they're absolutely disgusting. And I've always thought that people that drink them out of absolute necessity for, I guess you could say, having their soda and drinking it too, because maybe it's an acquired taste, but I think it's absolutely disgusting, the aftertaste that you get from those drinks. Not to mention usually the artificial sweetener being aspartame in a lot of those, and the other links of that aspartame has on your body, the effects that it has on your body that I've covered in my special reports on aspartame. You can see that on my YouTube channel or foodoffensive.com. You can get there through that, but just looking at all the health effects from it, and just the number of people that I've talked to that get headaches after drinking it, and that alone turns many people off, and it's probably a good thing because it is extremely bad for you. But this vitals.nbcnews.com article that talks about this, basically it says the study doesn't show that diet drinks cause depression, and the researchers stress their findings don't provide an explanation, but they looked at 263,900 U.S. adults from age 50 to 71 who answered questions about their beverage consumption between the years 95 and 96. About 10 years later, from 2004 to 2006, the same people were asked if a doctor had diagnosed them with depression since 2000. People who regularly drank 4 or more cans of any type of soda a day were 30% more likely to have a diagnosis of depression than people who do not drink soda, said Dr. Chen of the National Institutes of Health, who led the study. The risk of depression was especially high for people who drank diet soda, a 31% increased risk compared to a 22% increased risk for those who drank regular soda, the researchers said. Those who drank 4 or more cans of diet fruit drinks were 51% more likely to be diagnosed with depression compared to those who did not drink diet fruit drinks. Well, then again, who drinks that many sodas a day? Obviously, people do. I'll refer back to this Natural News article and what he has to say a little bit about it. But I would say anyone that, just my own personal opinion, anyone that drinks 4 or more cans of soda, that alone will cause you issues, all sorts of issues. I can't imagine drinking that much a day. But Mike Adams actually refers to, this is David Gutierrez. He's one of the writers for Natural News on Mike's website. He refers to Euromonitor International, and basically it states that the United States has the highest per capita soda consumption in the world, with each person consuming an average of 170 liters per year. And Mexico is ranked number 2 with a per capita consumption of 146 liters per year, and then followed by Chile, Argentina, and Uruguay with per capitas down into the 120 liters per year respectively. And then the European nations follow after that. But I mean, 170 liters, I would say even Mexico being number 2, if you see their sodas, a lot of their sodas, even the Coca-Cola brands and things like that, are they use real sugar. So I would say that's a lot better than drinking a Coca-Cola here in America, where it's made with high fructose corn syrup. That alone is a problem. But 170 liters per year, that's average. Now, if I think about this, last year, I can't say that I even drank 1 liter of soda myself, and that includes all sodas, that even sodas that would, quote, be more healthy, such as ones that have more natural sugar and things like that in there. But 170 liters, if I only drank 1 liter, that means someone else had to make up even that much more. I mean, I can't imagine. It's no wonder we have health issues. Just the sheer fact, not even what's in the sodas that are bad for you, just the sheer amount of volume that we're drinking, even if it was all, quote, somewhat good ingredients in those sodas, it would still have ill effects. I can only assume and only imagine. But anyway, the articles go on sourcing Dr. Chen, talking about also coffee contains large amounts of caffeine, which is a well-known brain stimulant. This research contrasted people that drank coffee, on the other hand, 4 or more cups of coffee a day were 10% less likely to be diagnosed with depression compared to non-coffee drinkers. Well, I love coffee, and coffee makes me happy, so I can see how that would be the opposite effect of a diet soda, which is evidently pointing towards people being plagued with depression. Well, this study, it's going to be presented at the American Academy of Neurology's annual meeting in San Diego in March, and the AAN website, you can see that here. I have the article and the announcement showing that he'll be speaking there. It says this article is not to be released until a certain date. I believe the 8th is what it was here. Yeah, and so that's talking about him releasing that. So maybe we'll hear more about that once the study comes about, or once he presents his findings.
And now the final piece this evening, I wanted to look at an action alert. Each week I wanted to try to cover something that can maybe require our action, something that's going on that we need to really address and really get the word out about. And this week, trying to keep these videos to 30 minutes or less, as they will be broadcast on local cable, hopefully. And the genetically engineered salmon, that's an issue that I covered in 2012, and I was doing a whole line of a series of genetically modified foods, genetically engineered foods. But the genetically engineered salmon is a real issue, and in 2013, it may be the time for us that we will see this if we cannot take action. And basically, the action is it's due on February 25th. You can contact the FDA. They are requesting comments from the public about this, and so we need to voice our opinions, voice what we think about this and the dangers that I'm going to lay out to you here in this article from the Cornucopia Institute. You can look at this Cornucopia Institute article yourself online. I have all of the links that I refer to here sourced as best as I can, and as time permits, even more that I can't cover in the time that I have. And I'm going to go to right now on some excerpts that I had from 2012 in my broadcast that I did concerning genetically engineered salmon. So here's that excerpt, and then we'll come back and conclude here this evening.
Looking at this Cornucopia Institute, cornucopia.org, and it's an action alert on genetically engineered salmon from January 9th of this year. FDA seeks public comment, and comments are due by February 25th, 2013. It says the FDA poised to approve genetically engineered salmon despite unknown risks to human health. Inevitable accidental release of transgenic fish into the wild could devastate native fish populations and ecosystems. Now, if you look at this picture here, you see two salmon. It says the DNA of the top fish has been genetically engineered to produce growth hormones all the time for its entire life. People who eat this fish will be eating this DNA along with the growth hormones. So you can see the size difference of this fish, and I've pointed that out in my special report that I'll be covering here in a second, of showing you excerpts from last year's special report I did in May of 2012, how that these are the salmon for the same amount of time of growth, and you can see just the huge difference in those two. But the article goes on and kind of describes how, despite overwhelming opposition from citizens and public interest groups to genetically engineered food, including 400,000 public comments opposing GE salmon, the Food and Drug Administration announced December 26th of 2012 that it is prepared to give transgenic salmon its final stamp of approval. So, despite us speaking out, they're still ready to go ahead with it. So let's see what kind of interests are involved in getting that pushed through. There's always something behind it. But it gives you a sample letter here that you can send. Obviously, if you make it more detailed, more personal, it could be more likely to be read. there's a link you follow to actually submit the letter, or you can mail it. So there's a link also to contact your House of Representatives, your senators in your area as well, to kind of hopefully stop this. And so right now I'm going to go into this special report and some excerpts that I had from last year covering this. I've already covered it, but it looks like it should be on the forefront of our minds, on the front burner again, so to speak, going into 2013 here, as it's a crucial issue. So here's that special report. So going right into these genetically modified food for this week, and it's this genetically engineered salmon that they're trying to push. And for years now, they have been trying to put that on the market, and they're waiting on the FDA approval of it, basically. And there's been a lot of pushback on it because, of course, anytime we genetically modify something, it poses a risk of infecting other species. It just as we've seen in the mice studies and things with corn and the other crops, it creates some major health issues, and sometimes we don't know it until it's too late. When we test mice and things like that, they regenerate faster. We can see the process, we can see the progress over time a lot faster than what it would take for a human to show those results. And so we're seeing it now. We're seeing the cancer off the charts. We're seeing infertility off the charts, and all those same effects of GMOs are found in the test animals. So we need to watch this very closely. And so when we talk about salmon, really the main reason for them doing this salmon is so that you can grow salmon a lot faster. It's going to grow all year instead of seasonally like it does currently. And what they're doing is taking the genes from a Chinook salmon, a very large salmon, and they're breeding it with the other salmon to make it grow faster, basically creating a higher yield. And of course, they pitch it as, oh, this is better for the environment. This is going to be better for us, talking about the whole sustainability seafood thing. But I'm just a little bit eerie that we need to do a lot more testing before we dive into that. But just look at this picture of this salmon. This is an example of the Chinook salmon. It's huge. And they can get large, obviously. They don't have to get that big, but they're taking the genes from that and really going with it. If you compare a genetically modified salmon with a regular salmon, and this is both fish growing at about 18 months, you can look and see, if you can see a bigger picture, that we'll put that up on screen. You're looking at a farm-raised salmon, about 13 inches, 2.8 pounds, and then a genetically modified salmon is all the way up to 24 inches or 6.6 pounds. Just the comparison there. Both of those took 18 months to grow, so you can see the difference. And I've gotten some fillets of salmon lately. I'm thinking there's got to be modified some way or some sort because they are huge. And so that's their motivation. But I think we really need to do more testing. And they've been going on this process. And from what I can tell, it's not approved yet. They're wanting to grow it in Panama. This company, it's called Aqua Bounty, and basically there's articles over and over. There's one title, Aqua Bounty's GE salmon smells pretty rotten, and it shows a bear trying to eat a salmon, but it's actually the bear is being eaten by the salmon because it's so big. It's kind of a funny comic there concerning that, but Aqua Bounty's trying to push this through. Of course, they've probably spent tons and tons of money trying to get this going with all the research and things. And I believe they're already growing it in Panama, South America. They claim on their website that they're growing it inland, which they say isn't a problem, because one of the concerns I have and others have about this is the fact that you can what keeps the salmon in, and once they're out in the wild,
we're talking about within 50 generations that all wild salmon would be completely gone because they would have bred with these genetically modified salmon. And there's a lot of debate on the science of it, of what really gets transferred and so on and so forth, but to other generations. And of course, the company wanting to sell the product has their own side of it, and that's just that we've seen with Monsanto and the other crops and the other seed biotechnology companies. It's just something we don't need to rush into. This is something that's taken quite a while for them to in the approval process, and it hasn't taken place yet. So we're going to hope that it's not going to come to pass. And when you talk about genetically engineered salmon, there are a lot of resources. Of course, the Center for Food Safety, we've covered some of their other stuff before, but they're at a big push right now with the genetically engineered fish, trying to point out the negative aspects of it. And there's a long article here. It's gefish.org, ge-fish.org, and then you can search the Center for Food Safety as well, and they have a petition on there I believe you can sign and things like that. Center for Food Safety.org, of course. But there are many articles over and over and over again about this, and of course from both sides. There was articles talking about threat. This GE salmon is a threat posing as a solution to world hunger and so on and so forth. Natural News exposes genetically engineered salmon, genetically modified salmon, found to be contaminated with infectious salmon anemia. So they're already finding these fish to become diseased, and they're supposed to be contained and farm raised, but it could actually cause it to a more likelihood of it. It's basically what they're pointing out here. And so there's a lot of dangers in it. There's a lot of risks that we need to look at. People, we have a lot of advocates that push for sustainable seafood, and I'm all for that. I don't want to overfish. I don't want to find out that there's no fish, say halibut, for example. There's no halibut left in the world ever, and we'll never have it again. I don't want to ever come to that point where we find that out as a chef, that we'll never be able to eat this fish again once those supplies are depleted. We don't want to find that out with say salmon, but I'm not quick to turn to a solution where we're just making fish. I mean, this is really Frankenfish. I have to believe there's a movie about it. The Frankenfish. There's a movie out, of course. I mean, it's a joke, but kind of a parody type thing. It's not real, but just think about all of the fish that can be contaminated possibly by this getting into the wild. Jeffrey M. Smith makes a good point. You can't recall a product like genetically engineered food. Once it's out there, it's out there. It's in the wild. It's just wide open, and it's very dangerous. Ben and Jerry's had made a flavor. Something's fishy. They were in protest of it. So there's just various things out there against it if you haven't seen it yet. But I'm going to conclude with that this week to try.
So as you can see, it's quite the issue, quite the speculation going on about what from both sides, the dangers of it, the supposed safety of it, and why it's good for us. And it's always genetically engineered food is one of the number one things is touted as it's good for us in a way that it can provide for the hungry. It can provide in areas where there's not enough food because of the production yields that they promise us through that. Well, what cost are we paying for that, and how can our food be grown differently? Well, hopefully you enjoyed this episode. As always, if you're watching this on local cable, the image quality is going to be low for a little while until we get things situated, but you can always see it in high definition at foodoffensive.com or YouTube/foodoffensive. That's right, this is foodoffensive.com coming at you from the front lines of our food supply. And in 2013, we're going to bring you a whole new setup, a whole new way of doing it, and hopefully up-to-date news, and that you can keep your family informed, and keep them healthy, and keep them living longer in the future. So thank you for joining me. Visit foodoffensive.com for any updates. And until next time, thank you for joining me.